Now, I'm delighted to say we're going back to Qatar. Rasmus Tantholdt is a journalist from Denmark who went pretty viral at the start of the World Cup when the Qatari authorities interrupted a live report. Rasmus, first off, good morning to you. How are you?
I'm good. It's hot, but of course we're all devastated in Denmark after what happened yesterday. So, well, I feel okay, but I'm very disappointed.
It wasn't really just yesterday that this happened, though. It's kind of been a slow, steady letting out of the air in the Danish tyres. What happened?
I mean, in Denmark and many other places, we talked about, should we boycott the World Cup? Should we not watch it at all on the television back home in Denmark? Should the Danish Football Association boycott it? Should the players boycott it and not attend the World Cup? Some people will say they did. They did not attend this World Cup. They boycotted the World Cup in Qatar by the way they played. I mean, I watched all the matches in the stadium and they just wasn't there. It's like they didn't understand this is a World Cup. It's now you have to perform. And we played against teams that we believe we are supposed to beat easily, like Tunisia and Australia. But they played their hearts out. They played like Denmark should have done. So people are extremely disappointed. Also, with the whole fairy tale story about Denmark, Christian Eriksen literally dying on the pitch in the Euro Cup, and the fairy tale that happened afterwards, like him coming back after 8 months, motivating the whole team, now playing in the big stage again in the World Cup. And there was so much expectations for this Danish team, and they just was a fiasco. It was a fiasco, to be honest with you.
It's funny, Rasmus, because the Danish coach, Kasper Hjulmand, that he's talked after the match about being too emotional, that the Danish players were too emotional almost to focus. Like, what does he mean by that? Because it's an experienced team. You'd imagine they'd be able to set emotions to one side.
It's professional players playing in big clubs, so they should be able to do that. But of course, there's been a lot of debate up to this World Cup, like everywhere else in Europe. I mean, should the Danish player wear the rainbow-colored One Love armband, or shouldn't they? Even though FIFA say they were not allowed to, they have done it anyway. The support from the Danish people haven't been the same. This is a World Cup in Qatar. Some people believe it shouldn't be here at all. And they wanted to see the Danish team not just talk about human rights and how this team, also have some values that they really stand up for. But when it comes to it and they are here, they didn't do it. So, I mean, I think the players, they could, lying in their beds in their room in Qatar, they could watch the headlines in Denmark, not being very nice to the Danish national team as they used to be in the Euro Cup. They could do nothing wrong. Everything was magic, whatever they did. And the headlines everywhere was, very positive. The Danish people very positive, out in the streets, celebrating all the time. But this time they didn't have the same support, and maybe it affected them. I don't know, but there must be some kind of explanation to that performance.
The thing is that this team obviously is the same team, effectively, or largely the same team that went out on penalties to Croatia 4 years ago. We know that team very well. Christian Eriksen came to Dublin, scored an amazing hat-trick, ripped us apart in about half an hour of some of the best football that we've seen at our national stadium, maybe since it's been redeveloped, which is like 20 years at this point. So, we all thought you guys were, Shane thought you were dark horses to win the whole thing. I don't know. And that's why it's so difficult to understand why they can't actually put a performance together when all of even the age profile, maybe certain players are a little bit too old, but it doesn't make any sense. Is the manager capable of explaining anything? And is the post-mortem focusing on bad management, mismanagement of resources? Is it just a collective sigh of the shoulders, shrug of the shoulders and a sigh and say, okay, that's football, sometimes it doesn't happen?
I mean, now they're talking about, did he select the right players? Because actually many of the players, when they played against Ireland or when they played the Euro Cup, they were actually also in the start 11 in the clubs that they are playing on a daily basis. But many of the players, they're not in the start 11 anymore. You have some of the really, really, very valued player at the Danish team who hasn't been performing the last couple of, 6 months or so. And some people would say that the Danish coach Hjulmand, he should also have looked at who is actually playing in the start 11 in big European clubs and not just stick to the same old team as he has done for the last couple of years, even though they used to have some success. And it was also a matter of the spirit on the team, those players, they created something together. Sometimes you have to, use people who are actually performing right now up to the World Cup. And many of these players, they didn't perform very well up to this World Cup. So that has been some of the criticism, and also some criticism that, you're talking about values. You're talking about that football is it's bigger than just football.
Yeah.
Christian Eriksen, what happened to him, and all these things. And then when they came, they couldn't stand up for those values. And the criticism might have some influence. But this is professional football players. They are supposed to perform in an environment where you sometimes get criticized. So people are stunned. I mean, they don't understand what actually happened to this team.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. Rasmus, you're a veteran of covering multiple World Cups, but I know that your day job is actually international coverage. So as a journalist who's not a day-to-day football journalist, what's your instinct about the impact that this World Cup is going to have? What was the point in Qatar trying to host this World Cup, in your view, having experienced it on the ground now?
Well, I think that the Qataris, they really hoped that they would get a lot of positive reviews, that people from Ireland, Denmark, and everywhere in the world, they would say, wow, let's go and have a holiday in Qatar. Let's invest in Qatar. But I think it's ended up as a kind of a boomerang for the Qatari government, because, what we have seen here is that it can be difficult to report. If you're a sports reporter, it might be possible to do it easily. You go from one stadium to the other and report about the sport. But I also covers, the good sides and the bad sides about the society. I did that also in Russia, in Brazil, in South Africa, in Germany, in South Korea, Japan. So that's what we do as journalists. We portray the host country. But that has been pretty difficult, as you might know, because I ran into some difficulties with the authorities. And it is not us revealing the Qatari government and the Qatari regime. It was them revealing themselves. And my experience is traveling around the world that, the more dirty laundry you have in the basement, you don't want to show to the public, the more difficult it is to work as a journalist.
Yeah, let's just roll that video, because I think people might be very familiar with what you're talking about at this stage.
bliver udsat for en hel del kritik. Hvordan oplever du forholdene lige nu?
Jamen, vi kan jo vise, hvordan forholdene er lige her, hvis vi drejer kameraet. We are live on Danish television, og der kan I se, nu bliver vi stoppet med at filme, og det er forholdene her. Mister, you invited the whole world you invited the whole world to come here. Why can't we film? It's a public place. This is the accreditation. Okay. We can film anywhere we want. Okay. There are only, of course,
but only for the Qatar.
Qatar, you have
because the Qatar is
no, we don't need permit.
Without the camera,
but you can break the camera. You want to break the camera? Okay, you break the camera. Okay.
Bring the camera.
Yes. So you're threatening us by smashing the camera.
What happened next?
Well, the next thing that happened was that we were asked to stay there for a while, because they wanted to check, well, did we actually have the right permissions? As I told them we had. And after 30 minutes, their supervisor arrived. He looked at our permissions. He said, sorry, guys, you have the right permissions. And when I reflect on all this, I think they just did what they have been told to do for the last many years. If they see journalists working in Qatar, they have to check if they actually have the right permissions. And often it is very difficult to get those permissions, because they don't want to show the dirty laundry they have in their basement, and they don't want that to be published everywhere. And I guess that is why they just was informed that during the World Cup, guys, you have to behave a little bit, because now media are coming from all over the world. You cannot arrest people for filming in the street or threatening them by smashing the camera. Imagine if they did that to many journalists down here. I'm not the only one who was stopped in filming here. That has been some kind of a challenge for the Qatari government to accept that, well, you invited us, yeah, and we're going to portray your country. We're going to go around taking pictures, talking to happy people and to sad people, and talk about your society.
Were you surprised by that treatment, Rasmus, or were you half expecting it before you went over? I know the police state, essentially. Were you expecting what happened?
I've been traveling in many countries where I have been stopped from filming, but I was a little surprised that during a World Cup that they prepared for 12 years, that they wasn't prepared for us doing a live broadcast from a roundabout. I was not sneaking into a migrant labor camp, showing how some of the migrants they are living in very bad conditions. That wasn't actually what I did there. I was just doing a live broadcasting, and I was pretty surprised that they were not more prepared for the whole world to come and portray the country.
I want to roll another video here. This is you filmed fans at the Iranian match as well. I'm just going to roll this tape here, and we can talk about it afterwards.
Yes. These journalists.
What did they do?
They attacked us. They attacked her. They attacked this girl.
Me.
For nothing.
I'm not
we
safe
need security.
Here.
We don't have security here.
Look at me.
We need no. Just don't leave. Don't leave. Don't leave.
I will not. I will stay here.
I'm not trusting anybody here.
Don't let them go. My phone.
No. We need secure exit from here. Now, huh?
My phone, please.
So tell us what happened.
No. They just started attacking us.
Is it because of the t-shirt?
Yeah, because of the t-shirt. All right. No, but please don't go from here, because I don't trust nobody. Even the police is with them. We need to get out of here. No. Naruto. Please, I beg you. My friend. Please, we just want to go home.
My daughter is... Call me as
No, we just want to go home.
So, afraid of our radio listeners, these are Iranian fans, and they're wearing T-shirts that says "Woman, Life, Freedom" on it. What happened there?
Well, it was after the match between USA and Iran, and actually I was there to cover, the fact that USA are playing against Iran with the historical, disagreements they had, and that could be interesting. But it turned out that the focus was totally different, because after the match, one group of Iranians representing the Iranian regime, they attacked some people, as you saw, representing the protests against the regime that are happening right now in Iran. And they didn't feel that the Qatari police, they were protecting them at all. And, the Qatari regime has been accused many times of cooperating very closely to the Iranian regime, rejecting Iranian journalists coming from exile to cover the World Cup to come here. And also, letting in a lot of people from the intelligence service in Iran to keep an eye on all these people wearing T-shirts, protesting against the Iranian regime. Because for them, this is a possibility, a stage to talk about these things that are happening in Iran. Because I cannot go to Iran to cover that, because I cannot get a media visa. It's impossible for international journalists to go to Iran at the moment. So this whole stage, the World Cup, is also a possibility for them to express their feelings about what's going on in Iran. And what happened was that they were attacked. And not even just this guy you saw here, but also a family with two crying kids that came up to us. So it was, I was, to be honest with you, pretty shocked about what happened, because, this is a World Cup. This is supposed to be a celebration. All countries coming together, having a party, and to talk about our common passion, which is football, that brings us all together. But definitely, it didn't bring the Iranian people together.
Were you asked to get rid of that footage, Rasmus?
Definitely. The police, they didn't want us to film that as well, because they don't want this picture of Qatar haven't got control of things like this. So they asked me to delete the pictures, and I refused, of course, because I'm at a stadium. If I cannot film at a stadium during a World Cup, I don't know where I can film then. And they detained me for 15 minutes. They wouldn't let me go. I asked them plenty of times, please let me go. I don't want to be detained by you. But they did that, and they tried to force me to delete the pictures, trying to take my phone, but I rejected it. And that is why you could actually roll that clip as you just did, because I of course wouldn't do that. And in the end, they let me go. I guess because this is the World Cup. If this was 1 year ago, they wouldn't have done that. I might be in jail right now. I don't know. But because of the World Cup, and because they don't want all this bad publicity, I guess they let me go, and I can now stand here and talk to you.
Is your tournament over now that Denmark are out, or will you stay around until the final and keep reporting?
After this interview, I have to call my editor back home, because actually I don't know. I'm actually enjoying this World Cup. I know that it has been criticized a lot But when you are here and you see that you have a World Cup in a small country where you can go down the street and meet fans from 32 different nations, that is actually amazing. I mean, you couldn't do that in Russia, where you had to travel 6,000 kilometers to watch a match sometimes, and you only meet fans from the opponent team that you are playing. Here you can meet everyone, and that is one of the positive things. There are a lot of things to talk about that could be better in Qatar. I know about that, but one thing that is positive is that you can be so many people together about football in a small place. So I'm going to miss that, but I don't know exactly when I'm going to go back home. But thanks to the Danish team, it will be earlier than expected.
Rasmus, it's been brilliant talking to you. Thanks so much, and keep up the good work.
Thanks.